So a while back somebody asked me about weight loss. So I'm going to deal with how to lose weight on a whole foods vegan diet. And the first thing is, I would say carbohydrate reduction and changing the types of carbohydrate you eat. Because it's not technically carbohydrate reduction, but first let me get into carbohydrate reduction. What do I mean? Well, first you want to start with a whole food vegan diet, so there's no junk food to begin with. But then you want to reduce carbohydrates, especially sugars. So what you want to deal with is reduction in fruits, especially dried fruits and things of that nature. And when you eat fruit, you want to look more to fruit as a dessert, maybe 2 or 3 servings of fruit a day as a dessert after a main high protein, high fiber meal. Now, then you want to look into increasing your protein and fiber intake. So you want to look to things like beans and other legumes, as well as perhaps a non-flavored pea protein. I like pea protein because it's high in glycine and low in methionine. And if you remember from previous videos, we want to restrict methionine because methionine restriction leads to a longer life in laboratory animals and probably in humans. Also, taking supplemental glycine gives you the results of methionine restriction without total protein restriction or without methionine restriction. But you do want to stick to a legume-centered protein sources. Then, with fiber, what you have to understand is fiber is a carbohydrate. Even though it's not digested as a carbohydrate, and even though it doesn't affect the blood sugar in a negative way, it is a carbohydrate. So that does go into your total carbs, but it lowers the glycemic index, meaning the rate at which carbohydrate is released into the bloodstream. So that's why you want to aim for higher fiber foods. Now, people will notice I have made a lot of progress with my weight loss. This is by going back to what I knew from the Atkins diet. Now, I would recommend against, say, a potato-centered diet or something of that nature, and I would certainly recommend against a fruit-centered diet for weight loss. But however, once you get more to your ideal weight, you want to enjoy fruit more often, but you want to stick to fruits that are things like berries, citrus, things that have bioflavonoids and polyphenols and things of that nature that have health-promoting properties. Keep in mind that beans and legumes are loaded with polyphenols and bioflavonoids and all that good stuff. So keep that in mind too. And also beans have potassium and fiber and all that. Basically a lot of things you need are in beans. That's why I recommend bean-centered meals, centering around chili, vegan chili, things of that nature. Also, you want to aim for low carbohydrate vegetables, things like onions, broccoli, things of that nature, string beans. Basically, it's more like, if you read I would highly recommend everybody read, I'm going to leave some links to the Atkins diet website about vegetables that are compatible with the Atkins diet. But I think that the Atkins diet is an ideal diet for weight loss. However, going further, making it a vegan diet, which would take it out of I don't believe in ketosis, so I wouldn't say I believe in the Atkins diet in that respect. But understanding how to eat specific vegetables that will not upset the balance of the body. There is a metabolic advantage to Atkins. There is a metabolic advantage to eating a high protein diet. I'm not exactly crazy about the high fat, certainly not high saturated fat. We do know they cause health problems, and that's one of the problems. I do think the Atkins organization misleads people on that, and I think Dr. Atkins did actually when he was alive. I do think that there's a lot of downplaying of the negative roles of saturated fat and cholesterol. But needless to say, we're going whole food vegan here. Don't scrimp too much on fat, but in the same sense, don't get your fat from things like margarine. Having a tablespoon or so of extra virgin olive oil with your vegetables or something, that's good. And this goes to my knowledge of things like South Beach and the Zone diet, the 40-30-30 diet. You want a balanced diet of high fiber carbohydrate, protein, and a little bit of fat. So you can get that little bit of fat from things like nuts, seeds, and maybe some olive oil, things of that nature. I currently have taken nuts out of my diet completely, and I eat things like pumpkin seeds and stuff like that because I was curious as to whether or not I have a sensitivity to nuts. But if you don't have a sensitivity to nuts, go nuts. And that's where you can get a handful or so of nuts a day will provide plenty of fat. And it also helps you absorb the polyphenols and things like that from your vegetables. So remember to have a complete meal, 2 to 3 meals a day. Don't exceed that, and eat relatively small portions. Now we're going to get into exercise. Keep your exercise simple when you're trying to lose weight. Something you can do. For example, jumping jacks. I like jumping jacks. They're very good. They help the lymphatic system. I do basically 5 sets of 100 jumping jacks a day. Sometimes I do 5 sets of 100 jumping jacks a day. Sometimes I do 10 sets of 100 jumping jacks a day. But they're easy to work in. If that's not easy to work in for you, obviously don't start with 100 if your cardiovascular system isn't in good shape. Start with 25 sets of 25 jumping jacks or sets of 10 jumping jacks. You don't need to get super complex when you're trying to utilize exercise for weight loss, but what you do need to do is be consistent, very consistent. And if you can only do 2 sets of 25 jumping jacks a day, work with that until you get healthy enough to build it up. You can also concentrating on strength training is good, sit-ups and push-ups and things of that nature, but a lot of people lack upper body strength, so they have to go into this slow so they don't get discouraged. And that's all. That's my recommendations for weight loss. I'm going to leave helpful links in the description, and that's it for this video.